We've been telling you to buy 2024 first, and now we are going to do our first look ahead to the 2024 rookie draft season and what prospects we might be keeping an eye on as we get within a year of that now. This is still a long way out. So look, here's what you need to know as we do this. We're going to give you our top, guys that we have on our radar. We haven't watched film on these guys. We don't have any mock drafts on these guys. This is going to be extremely preliminary. So this is going to be a brief overview of all these guys. We're ranking them here. But again, don't split hairs here because again, we haven't evaluated these guys a whole lot, but this is more just a fun video. We want to look at it. And you hear it in Dynasty. Every class is the next best class. And this one, 2024
this is the one.
This is the one.
This is it.
This is the 2024 is the one though, obviously. So no, we know all classes have their bright spots and some sour spots, but we think that this 2024 class, as it looks right now, could be another solid class. Just like this year's was. So, all right, make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We've got content coming out like this all summer long. Singing Sweet Home Alabama all summer long. I could not think of it when I...
Nice job.
All right. Yeah, make sure you subscribe. Even just for that. That's why you should subscribe, because I just sang that song. What is that song called?
I don't know it.
I have no idea.
Yeah, okay. Anyways, looking ahead to 2024, let's look at the S tier. Nathan's going to start with the obvious choice in Superflex leagues. Again, this is going to be Superflex rankings, and that's going to be Caleb Williams.
Yeah, Caleb Williams, everyone's saying he could be the next generational prospect in the NFL. I wouldn't go that far yet. He's really, really, really good. And I was one of the first, I think I was the first of the three of us to see him in 2021 when he was at Oklahoma, backing up the next best prospect in Spencer Rattler, who got benched because he sucked, and Oklahoma ended up sucking that year. And Caleb Williams came in the second half and completely tore it up as a true freshman. And I couldn't believe my eyes. I was like, this guy's the real deal. And he developed really well, followed Lincoln Riley to USC, and this season put up 4,500 passing yards and 500 passing attempts. That's an average of just over 9 yards per attempt, 66.6% completion percentage, 42 passing touchdowns, and tacked on 382 rushing yards on top of that as well. This guy's got the rushing upside. He's got the passing ability, the arm strength, the size, the speed, no measurable concerns, no production concerns going into the NFL. His 40 time recorded on Player Profiler so far is a 4.56, so there's definitely a chance he could up that.
In high school.
Yeah, in high school. So he's a fast dude as well. He's incredibly elusive. He plays well in the within the structure of the pocket, but he also, when the play breaks down, he can make things work with his legs. He can make things happen, but he always has his eyes upfield. He's not afraid of contact. He's not afraid of anyone in his blind side. He's a ton of fun to watch at USC. He transferred to USC, like I said earlier, to follow Lincoln Riley. And honestly, from a character perspective, this guy is top notch from everything I've heard and everything I've seen. He really struggled to leave Oklahoma to go to USC because of how much of a loyal guy he is, a loyal teammate he is. But he chose to follow his coach, and it's worked out really well so far. I think he's going to be consensus 101, maybe not in, I would say, I'll say in Dynasty rookie drafts next year, but I think he's consensus 101 in the NFL as well this time next season.
Yeah, absolutely. So then we're moving on to Marvin Harrison Jr., who some have called the best receiving prospect to come out of Ohio State in the last 4 years, which is a big compliment when you consider the guys that they've pumped out at Ohio State. But Marvin Harrison Jr., you know the story. Last year, he really played mostly cornerback. He only had 11 receptions in 2021 in 4 games. He had 139 receiving yards and 3 receiving touchdowns. So he obviously had a little bit of a breakout game there last year in 2021. This year was his first full season. Obviously, Jackson Smith-Njigba did not play, but Marvin Harrison Jr. was absolutely up to the task, and he is taking after his Colts legend dad, and he's tearing it up. 13 games, he had 77 receptions on 109 targets from C.J. Stroud, 1,263 receiving yards, and that's 16.4 yards per reception.
100 yards a game almost.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, legitimately. A target share percentage of 27, a 70% catch rate, and 14 receiving touchdowns. Marvin Harrison Jr., he is a guy, I mean, obviously, if you are a prospect that is this highly regarded, you've got to be a guy that can do it all, and he can. He doesn't really have a ton of glaring weaknesses in his game. He was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school, and obviously given the heritage, given the type of athlete that he is, he was destined to break out at Ohio State. He ended up in a good spot, and now, he's coming in. He's very good as a deep threat, although he's not the speediest, blazing, fast guy you've ever seen. He's good as a deep threat downfield. He's very good tracking the ball. You've seen it. I mean, the C.J. Stroud pretty bombs to Marvin Harrison Jr. in the end zone. You wonder why he has so many receiving touchdowns. Stroud could throw over the defense, and Marvin Harrison Jr. could beat the defense and track the ball in the air. I mean, it was a thing of beauty watching those two work this season at Ohio State, and I think you're going to see that translate very well to the NFL. I think that Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be a guy that is a lock to go in the top 3 of Dynasty rookie drafts next season. This is a guy that we're pretty much 100% sure about. I mean, there's almost no chance that he drops out here. So we'll confidently say that Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. are going to be locks, and really this next one as well is a very good prospect looking to next year, and that's going to be Brock Bowers.
Yeah, Brock Bowers, especially in tight end premium leagues, is going to be a hot commodity. He's only 20 years right now. Talk about athleticism. In high school, at 6'4", 230 pounds, he ran a 4.48 40-yard dash. Has out of this world athleticism. People say, they talk about Kyle Pitts, and Brock Bowers is the next thing since Kyle Pitts. He's a freshman in the SEC at Georgia. Stacked room, stacked offense there. Obviously, they won the national championship. He still had a 20% target share and 882 yards. 56 targets, 20% target share there. I mean, that is just absolutely incredible. And you're in your tight end premium leagues, you're going to want this guy. I mean, it's looking now like he could be going top 3 in rookie drafts next year, and it's going to be hard to turn him down. He's truly a generational prospect. And, there's a lot to be excited about there.
He's baby Gronk.
Yeah, so
like every other prospect.
It definitely says a lot that Darnell Washington, who is just getting early second to late first round buzz in the NFL, were it not for some medical concerns and injuries, and Brock Bowers easily outproduced him at Georgia. Like easily.
Not even close.
Not even close. My next guy is going to be Drake Maye. He's a QB coming out of North Carolina. Definitely going to be hearing more and more about this guy. He's got some crazy wheels, some crazy rushing upside. That's every man's dream in fantasy. 698 rushing yards last season, 4,300 passing yards, 38 passing touchdowns off of 516 attempts. This man really did a great job filling the big shoes that Sam Howell left in that North Carolina offense, and he took off and ran with it quite literally. So excited to see what this guy can do this season in college and see if he can boost his draft stock as well. We're going to keep him in the A tier because, again, we don't really know exactly how he's going to do this season. He's not as surefire as we think Caleb Williams is going to be. So time will tell.
Yeah, and then we've got Emeka Egbuka here. And, he's 6'1", 203 pounds. Obviously, he's playing next to Marvin Harrison Jr. at Ohio State. His high school workouts yielded a 4.42 40 time, so that's obviously pretty freaking quick there as well. A 26% college dominator rating as well. You saw that in this year's stats as well. You had 13 games, just like Marvin Harrison Jr., 74 receptions, so they're about 3 apart there, 1,151 yards, a 26% target share, 70% catch rate, and 10 receiving touchdowns. So you saw last year he had more, special teams yards. He had about 600 special teams yards last year. This year he's obviously being used more as a primary receiving threat. And so playing alongside Marvin Harrison Jr., who a lot of people are heralding as this golden prospect, Egbuka held his own. And you saw it this year in the Ohio State offense with C.J. Stroud. Again, this is a guy that, while he's pretty freaking fast, he's not going to get a ton of separation, especially at the line of scrimmage, but he's like Jackson Smith and Jigba. Actually, he's very good at changing direction, so he finds himself open quite a bit. He does have some speed on there as well. Like I said, a 4.42 high school 40, which is pretty fast in the 86th percentile. So we're going to be keeping an eye on him, and I think it's pretty fitting that I got the 2 Ohio State receivers in this, because I'm like Mr. Ohio State receiver on this show. But obviously, these are 2 guys that I'm going to draft.
What do you mean? Everyone's
he's so elite compared to the 2 of us that he might as well have gone to Ohio State. Next, we have a QB who used to play for Ohio State. It's Quinn Ewers. I guess he never played, but Quinn Ewers committed to play for Ohio State after, didn't he win the Elite 11 in like 2020?
Yes.
Something like that.
Nice.
He was a really, really good prospect, one of the higher rated prospects ever coming out of high school. Plays at Texas right now. He's only 20 years old. And we have him a couple tiers behind Drake Maye and Caleb Williams, because he's not shown as much promise in college. And granted, it was his first year starting, but last year he had 2,100 passing yards. He had a 58% completion percentage, 15 passing touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. And through 10 games, that's really respectable. But yeah, like you just said, he had Bijan Robinson on the same team as him, and Bijan was a huge piece of that offense. But we're really hopeful when it comes to Quinn Ewers. It'd be great to have another class with 3 QBs towards the top, and we'll see what he can do next year. So it'll be exciting.
Yeah, so we're going to enter this, the volatile position, the running backs. Are we really ultimately? We don't know. I would going to go out on a limb here and say we're not going to have another Bijan Robinson in this class at the running back position. So we're kind of just spitballing here. But everyone knows Raheim Rocket Sanders. Everyone thinks that this is going to be one of maybe 2 A to S tier level running backs coming into this 24 rookie class. And his production, shows that he has that upside. He has that possibility of 222 rushing attempts, 1,400 rushing yards, 12 touchdowns, and showed a little bit of receiving upside as well with almost 30 receptions for 270 yards as well. And a target share of about 9%. That's not like the best ever, but it's respectable enough.
He's really good for a running back.
Yeah, it's solid. He's not, again, I would not go as far as saying that he's elite level. I think he'll be a solid prospect. I would expect, if I were to be a guessing man today, he'll probably go second round. With him, I'm excited to see what he can do at Arkansas this year. He has a lot to prove. Like I said earlier, you'll see how volatile this position is, and from a prospect perspective, where you can have guys like Zach Evans and Sean Tucker right below Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs, and then they're just completely irrelevant because of their draft stock. Yep. I don't think that's going to happen with Sanders, but again, time will tell.
Yeah, and the other guy that's going to be up there with the Raheim Rocket Sanders is going to be TreVeyon Henderson. And so, obviously, in Devy leagues, Henderson has been a really hot topic here for 2 years now, given that last year was his breakout year. He played in 13 games. On 184 rushing attempts, he had 1,255 rushing yards and 19 total touchdowns to go along
the Ohio State offense for you.
Yep, and 27 receptions and 312 receiving yards, which is... Guys, that's incredible. And that is absolutely why we're looking at TreVeyon Henderson and saying that he could be the next guy. Honestly, if TreVeyon Henderson possesses that receiving upside, he could go in the first round next year. You saw it with Jahmyr Gibbs.
Absolutely.
Like those types of running backs, those are trying to get him early. He came out of high school as a 5-star recruit. He was the 23rd overall recruit in the country and the first overall running back prospect. Obviously, this year he did not play a lot. But that being said, in the small sample size that he did play, he was still very good. I think we'll be able to see a larger sample size of him next year and get a better idea of what his draft stock is going to be coming into the NFL draft. This is a guy that, while we have him in this tier now, is somebody that could go up to Jahmyr Gibbs levels next year, given the skill set that he brings, given the receiving upside that he brings. This is a guy people have been excited about for a long time, and I think as we get closer to next year, there's going to be a lot of people excited about him still. So, all right, Simon, you're up.
Yeah, I'm sticking with another player out of Texas here, and it's Xavier Worthy, one of the most exciting players in college football. I don't know if you watch much college football, but the guy ran a 4.29 coming out of high school. 4.29. I mean, that he'd be one of the faster players in the NFL at that speed. I think the only player this last year to run that fast was Trey Palmer, right? And he was just 18 when he did that. His last 2 years, at 18 years old at Texas, he had 998 yards on a 30% target share. At 18 years old. Jeez. So talk about an early breakout as a true freshman. This last season with Quinn Ewers, he had 760 yards on a 29% target share. But the problem when we're looking at Xavier Worthy is he look at his speed. He's a deep threat. Man, that was rough. I don't know why I struggled so much there. He's a deep threat. Over his last 2 years, his catch rate has been 60% and 51%. So he has some flaws on his prospect profile.
Wow. You done?
Yeah.
Nice job.
Yeah, no, you're good. He has some flaws on his profile, and that's why we're not pushing him up higher. But he has the tools to succeed. And if he gets the draft capital and fixes that next year, he should be up there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Malik Nabers is going to be our next guy, another receiver coming out of LSU. He really kind of took the role that Kayshon Boutte was supposed to take in that offense. And Malik Nabers was a guy that thrived after the coaching transition to Brian Kelly, and his target share was 21%, but from a receiving yards perspective and the passing volume that was there in LSU in Brian Kelly's first year, he actually accounted for 27% of the yardage in that offense, of the passing yardage. So that's a pretty impressive feat for a true sophomore. 72 receptions, nice catch rate of 73%. And a few receiving touchdowns on top of that as well. He's a guy that I'll have my eye on him for sure. And I think a lot of people in the Dynasty community will. They always have their eye on the LSU receivers because of Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. So keep an eye on him, but take all that with a grain of salt and the potential Malik Nabers hype that could come, because there is a chance that he could be a little bit overhyped if his production is kind of the same as it was last year. I don't necessarily trust the receivers in a Brian Kelly offense as much as I do others, but I still think he shows a lot more promise, definitely more than Butte, who had horrible draft capital this year and a terrible combine. I think he could do some stuff here next season.
Yeah, and despite Blake Corum on 247 carries, putting up 1,463 yards this year at Michigan and 18 touchdowns, just having a monster year, Blake Corum is not the Michigan running back we're going to put on these rankings. It's actually going to be Donovan Edwards.
Yes.
Despite all of that production from Blake Corum, and this is a lot of rushing volume from Michigan, by the way, Donovan Edwards in 11 games this year, 140 rushing attempts for 991 yards, so dang near 1,000 yards. Running with a 1,500-yard rusher here. 9 total touchdowns, had 18 receptions for 200 yards, and had a 7.3% target share, this being his breakout year, his 19-year-old season at Michigan. He's 6 foot 202 pounds, so he has that workhorse size there, although a little bit small on the weight end. So obviously, we're going to look for him to weigh in a little bit heavier at the combine. That's something we're going to be looking forward to. He's obviously eligible next year. A younger guy, not blazing, doesn't have blazing speed. His high school 40 time was a 4.55. That puts him in the 56th percentile. But again, I think when we're watching Donovan Edwards, I think this is basically us calling our shot that we think his skill set's going to translate better to the NFL than Blake Corum. Blake Corum coming out this year was not a guy that I was going to be super high on anyway. I think there was a reason he went back to school. I don't think this is a Zach Sharp anything at all. So with Donovan Edwards, we'll see. I mean, again, I think he's going to have to put on a little bit of weight with a BMI of 27.5, but that's it. What? Go ahead.
Yeah. Did you watch him when he took over for Blake Corum
Yes,
the day he got
so much
injured?
better.
So much better. I was like, holy crap!
7 yards a carry.
I was rooting for Michigan. I was like, they're screwed. They're not going to make the CFP. They're going to lose here because they lost Blake Corum, and then Donovan Edwards goes out and does better. It's like they didn't even need Corum.
We're big fans. So again, I think you could make an argument from a production standpoint that you've got to put Blake Corum on here, but we're going to roll with Donovan Edwards. So,
yeah.
All right, Simon, you've got Braelon Allen.
Let's see how much I stutter here. Braelon Allen is one of the younger prospects you'll ever see at running back. At 17 years old in Wisconsin, he had 1,268 yards as a freshman, as a true freshman. 17 years old. This last year, he followed that up with another 1,200-yard season. 13 receptions this year, so he's getting a little bit better. But the big mark on his profile is his high school workouts. He only ran a 4.8 in high school. And obviously, he's finding ways to make it work in college. He has 2 1,200-yard seasons in a row, and he's extremely young.
He's tall.
So there's a lot to be excited about there. But he's a big guy, 6'2", 238 pounds, and he's finding ways to make it work in one of the harder conferences in football. So exciting, but we'll have to see. This is one of the downsides of looking at this a year early. Well, there's a lot that can change.
Yeah. It's a bummer to see his efficiency go way down from a rushing attempt perspective or an average perspective. But the next running back we're going to have is Bucky Irving coming out of Oregon. His production isn't as impressive, but I mean, he did break 1,000 yards as a freshman, just over 1,000 yards, a 6.8 average, which is real solid, very efficient, 5 touchdowns, and had some great receiving upside. 31 receptions for 300 yards. That's an average of almost 10 yards per reception, and tacked on another 3 touchdowns there as well. So this guy is another one who he's young, he's got the size, he's got respectable age. He's 5'10", 194. That, size is fine. And I think he's one we're going to want to keep our eye on for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And wrapping up here, we're going to put Will Shipley in here. Will Shipley, a guy that I was looking at in our Devy draft last year and doing a lot of research on. 5'11", 205 pounds out of Clemson. He ran a 4.42 40 in high school. That puts him in the 88th percentile. Last year was deemed his breakout year on 149 rushing attempts. He had 739 rushing yards and 11 total touchdowns. This year, though, is what I like to see from Will Shipley in terms of can this translate. 210 rushing attempts, so his volume was up by about 60 attempts and 1,182 rushing yards. 15 total touchdowns, but he had 38 receptions this year for 242 yards, giving him a 10% target share on Clemson's offense. And personally,
Beautiful.
I love to see that high target share from a back like Will Shipley. When you pair together the speed that he showed in high school, if he can come out and reproduce that at the combine, the receiving upside as well, and a fine BMI at 5'11", 205. Again, the size is good as well. I think this is a guy that, again, with the receiving upside, you could see have a role in an NFL offense, a guy that we're going to have to keep an eye on, and a guy that has a younger breakout age that we could be looking at, and next year revisiting this and saying, yeah, we were right for calling this one. Also a guy that, potentially could be a running back that falls, and we always have those. But again, we're just guessing, and that's kind of, as we wrap this video up, that's what we're going to say again. This is very high level. Again, we have not been able to get in the film of these guys, so we're not really going to take a hard stance for any of these dudes, except for the guys at the top, like Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison, Drake Maye, Brock Bowers. Those guys are pretty sure things. So Egbuka even. But I again, let us know what you think of the 2024 rookies in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts, especially if you've done a lot of research on them. We're going to be doing more research as we get closer to the season. Again, we've told you, make sure you're not selling your 2024 first right now if you can. You shouldn't be making a contending move right now anyways, given that we are in May. But even then, like, these 2024 firsts are going to be so value insulated. Make sure you hold on to them. They're going to continue to increase in value. It's like selling a stock before it goes up. Don't do that. So hang on to these 2024 firsts. It's the next best class. It's not. It's as good as. 2022 is great. There were so many good wide receivers in that class. This class in 2023 is very top heavy. There's going to be good and bad things about this next class as well. We're just looking ahead early. So make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We've got Dynasty content coming out all off season long. That song, by the way, is Werewolves of Thunder. I remembered it now. Nice. So we really appreciate you watching. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you later.